New York City is the greatest city in the world. Culturally rich, ethnically diverse, it is a true melting pot where traditions and trends are created. People move here from all over the world to follow their dreams. From the tip of Staten Island to the top of the Bronx and everywhere in between, you will find entrepreneurs on every street corner. These are their New York stories.
I do love, paintings, print, sculpture, photography. I like to see what's out there. I'm Robert Rogal. I'm the founder and owner of rogalry.com, and this is my New York story.
All right, Robert.
Hi, Jill.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for having us in.
My pleasure.
I
Glad you're here.
appreciate it. This is 30 years of collecting and selling art, but it's not just one.
Not just selling, I buy a lot too.
And buying, but you have so much New York history. We're just saying this is the bar from Regine's.
Regine's, right.
Which, and yet I'm looking at a Peter Max and Botaro and, Dolly over here, and this is just one room.
That is correct.
So how did you come to be in this world?
It's a passion, I guess.
Were you an artist as a kid?
No. I never had too much artistic talent. Still don't, although I have ideas.
Okay. And you clearly have a good eye.
I like to think so. I look at things as a valuation, and I try to buy them correctly where I think there might be some room for further advancement. It would be like picking a stock in the stock market or buying a piece of real estate. With artwork, you have to pretty much put a value on it as to what I might pay for it, and hopefully I can sell it, if I do sell it, for a lot more than I paid for it.
So you were saying before that you had other businesses. What was your first job as a kid?
I think as a kid, I was friendly with a car dealer at like 13 or 14. So, being friendly with a car dealer and having cars and, knowing sales and see how they bought them and sold them, gave me an idea that, hey, I can do this. And as a kid, I bought and sold cars.
At 13?
15, 16. I remember my friend had a dealership called Volvo City, and it was the first Volvo dealership in
the U.S.
In the U.S. Yeah. And it was in Connecticut, and at the time the cars did not have seatbelts, so I came up with a promotion of hanging the car 30 feet in the air. I hired a crane, and we had a seatbelt, and we hoisted the car up 30 feet in the air, and we had a big crowd, and it made all the associated newspapers that carried the story. The car would have stayed up there probably, forever, but it stayed up there for 6 or 7 hours. Everybody was waiting for it to fall and seatbelt to break. But I remember that promotion was quite successful.
I would say so. You certainly garnered a lot of attention out of that.
Got a lot of attention out of that.
Really
but that was,
but
being with a car dealer, that gave me an idea of wheeling and dealing, so to speak.
And you loved it.
Yeah, I liked it. But, then I went into the club business, which there was an opportunity to a dance hall that became available that was
in New York
Connecticut.
City?
No, actually in Connecticut. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember I rented it from a little lady for $200 a month, and it was former Elks Club and it had a stage, and we hired a local vendor to put in two. It was the first discotheque actually. He gave us two big speakers. They were really big speakers, and like a jukebox. And we called it a discotheque, and we charged $1 admission at the door. And the place probably cost me $2,000 to open, and on a Thursday night I got 400 kids $1 a head, and Friday night I got 600 kids $1 a head. Saturday night it repeated the same thing. My first week in business, I got all my money back, and then we took in money behind the soda bar that Coca-Cola made the installation for nothing. And we sold like $400 or $500 worth of soda. So
how old were you when you?
Then I was maybe 15, 16 years old. 16, I would say.
15 or 16?
16, yeah. It was the first, from the first week in business that I went into business, I got my money back. And
did you think that was just kind of the way
Well,
it was? I mean, because
n-
like at such an early age, you
no,
had this
you know what?
tremendous success.
I know, but you didn't think of it that way because I opened up another club and another club, and in other words, it just started I ran some dances and did some promotions, and it just becomes, you do one thing and it's not enough. You need to do it again. It's just
Like
like
that
I
adrenaline
can't live
high.
off of one piece of art.
I was going to
I
say,
need another piece and another piece, and every day, even
you
though
like to
I'm out,
buy, you said.
I love to
You
buy.
love to
My
buy.
high comes when I buy, not when I sell.
You love it.
Love it. Yeah. So it's fun to buy.
Did your mom like to buy? Did you go
She
with her?
did. She was a little bit of an antique collector, and she liked to buy antiques and things. And she didn't buy art so much, but she liked china and lamps and different things, and she enjoyed that quite a bit.
And were your folks entrepreneurial or were they more
No, no,
traditionalists?
no. Mom was a housewife, and Dad was a tradesman.
So I'm curious as you kind of talk about these variety of businesses that you're in and ultimately decided to focus on this business which you've been in now for 30 some odd years.
Right.
Like how did you know what to do first, so to speak? Like what was that first experience, your first buy? You said you love to buy.
What?
So what
Well,
I mean, like, did you have something in your mind? I got to get this to like
no,
no.
no,
So what
no.
happened?
Well, what happened? Uh, what happened? It wasn't that easy. It was, when I first went into the art business, there was a company that published a lot of artwork that was very difficult to sell. I had to put it in the trunk of the car and go around the galleries to see if they would buy it, and there was a lot of resistance. So there weren't a lot of galleries that a lot of galleries dealt with artists. They didn't deal with prints. So you had to find galleries that were kind of print galleries, galleries that were contemporary. A lot of galleries work with local artists and different things. So yeah, you had to find the galleries that knew some of the artists that maybe we had published.
So who are some of your first artists that you represent? Or that
Oh well, I guess that there was Carel Appel, there was Red Grooms, Cornet, um, a number of different Cobra
these
artists.
names.
But I don't know how familiar people are with all the names, but um, uh, they're
Those are
well-known artists today that sell in major auction houses. A lot of artists uh, wanted to be part of the publishing deal because it gave them business when they had this.
Platform.
Well, they had the same dilemma of getting business. So if somebody came and said, "Look, we'd like to publish one of your images," they were gung ho. They were ready to do it. And top artists, Rauschenberg, Rosenquist. I mean, everybody did. In those days, they called it a tax shelter, but it was a tax advantage kind of situation for them. And the artists were pretty easy to sign up to because initially they got a fee, and they were happy to have their image get out there.
Has technology helped or hurt?
Yeah, we're an internet company.
Yeah.
I mean, we without the technology, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Okay.
I mean, without question. We were one of the first ones to do online auctions. We're an online auction company, and we're totally an internet company. We really don't let anybody in without an appointment. I mean, people come from all over the world, and people are welcome, but they just don't knock on the door and come to browse around. We're not really a street gallery like you might find in West Broadway or Rodeo Drive or Worth Avenue. We're
We're a destination.
we're a destination, but we have clients all over the world, and it with a market like that, people get to see what you have because of the internet, and we market through various platforms.
So do you have anything that has been here since you started?
Oh, sure.
And because you didn't want to sell it, or it hasn't sold?
No, it's just because it's here. It's there are certain things that I guess certain things that might have a particularly high price, or I'm not in a real hurry to sell, or just haven't found a home.
Is everything for sale?
Basically, yeah.
Everything. There's
Everything.
nothing that's like you're so emotionally attached to it.
There's no emotion.
Nada.
No, there's no emotion. I have no regrets for anything I've ever sold, and that includes some substantial work. You know, whether it be a Keith Haring or a Warhol or a Picasso.
That amazing Keith Haring jacket. I cannot wait to go. Can we go into the
Sure.
into the warehouse?
Sure.
'Cause I'd love to be able to walk and talk a little bit more.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. That'd be great.
Great.
Let's do that.
This is
Look it.
another Salvador Dali called Michelin Lady, one of 6 in the world. Quite an interesting piece.
Michelin Lady.
Michelin Lady was
And I love.
it's one of 6 in the world. A lifetime cast by Salvador Dali. It's an original Picasso ceramic of a happy face.
And this is
And,
so fascinating. What is this? This
This
is
is
a montage
of different money, and this is a famous Italian artist called Mimo Rotella. This is an Andy Warhol, Jacqueline.
gorgeous.
That's Andy Warhol. This is a photorealist called H.N. Hahn. That's an original Romad Bearden up there, with the train and the collage.
How many pieces are here, Robert? This is like
Probably, over 10,000.
over 10,000.
Right.
And this is your warehouse where you warehouse
Well,
all your.
in the warehouse is that part of the gallery. You know, this is like our office where we do everyday work.
Can I show the crew the Keith
Sure.
Haring jacket
Sure,
though?
sure.
Because I thought that was
Sure.
wild.
This is a Keith Haring. It's an originally shot motorcycle jacket. You notice the feet, and you notice how perfectly centered. Keith was like an extraordinary artist that when he started, you can't go back. You have to just keep going. And he never made a mistake. He just had the flow of every stroke was a stroke where you don't go like this. It just
This
it's
is
like
one
Matisse,
motion.
He just one motion. He just kept going and just put it all together as just perfectly centered, perfectly even. It's just an excellent piece of artwork.
It is an excellent piece of artwork.
This might be an investment because it has an aftermarket. So you look at your downside and you say to yourself, if I really had to sell it, could I get $7,500 out of it? Could I get $5,000 out of it? Or, you know what, it might go to 12,000 or 15.
Right.
So,
It's like a piece of real estate.
there you go.
And then this is beautiful.
And this is Roy Lichtenstein.
Look at this. Holy cow.
This
Spectacular.
is a Neerman.
And do you have, I mean, I know you love all your children, but do you have a favorite?
Come
Come on, Robert.
I like them all. I
You
mean,
like
I
them
like
all?
the Moreaus. I like the Warhol. I like the Chagalls.
So they,
I even like the Serrano, Heaven and Hell. And this is Patrick Hughes, Paradise Island. I like the Agam.
that's a Warhol right there,
Yeah,
right?
that's Queen Beatrix.
And that's Moreau right
That's
next
Joan
door,
Moreau,
right?
uh-huh.
Herring.
Herring.
And do you know the stories behind each of these?
Not all, but some.
You
Some
work
I
at
do.
that.
That's Picasso over there. Nice Picasso etching.
Oh boy. How do people get involved with auctions? Like, and for some, I learned years ago that there is a step up. You know, it's not just the $1 million. I mean, that there is a
I mean,
process.
and by the way, we have auctions that you can participate for hundreds of dollars. It doesn't have to be thousands or tens of thousands or triple digits.
That's a Picasso.
It is ceramic. That's an original
Neiman?
Leroy Neiman. That's Dick
Moreau?
Taggart. Yep, there's Moreau,
Who's
there's Salvador
this?
Dali, there's Andy Warhol.
Robert, I could be here all day, but I got to let you go.
Okay.
Dinner reservation.
All right, great.
And
You're welcome back.
I'm going to come back. This
Okay,
was
great.
very special.
Pleasure.
Thank you
Pleasure.
very much.
Love to
Thanks.
have you come back.
I would love it.
My name is Misha Nunu. I am the CEO and creative director of my own label. I started the company because I was always mad about fashion. And this is my New York story.
When people see beautiful images in the pages of fashion magazines, it all looks very glamorous.
Yes.
I was sharing with you
Yes.
my daughter and
Yeah.
her kind of about what she sees and what she reads. But I kind of want to talk about those building blocks to being able to get where you are today and
Yeah.
where you want to go tomorrow.
Well, I think that fashion, those beautiful images in magazines, they have to be emotional and they have to stir you, because the moment that you get into it, you realize that it's so unglamorous, and that all that stuff really does only exist in fashion magazines, and it's not the reality. I read somewhere that it's the second biggest industry in New York City, and still, even though the garment district has dwindled enormously and shrunk, but it does, honestly, Jill, take a huge amount of hard work, tenacity, and you have to almost have such a thick skin, because you're knocked down all the time, and you have those moments of what people might say success, but you've worked so hard for it that you don't even feel like woohoo, like jump for joy. You're kind of just like, oh, thank God, and like move on, that's the next thing.
Do you have kind of tiers in your mind that you're saying, okay, I need to get here. When I get here, I'm going to do this?
100%. 100%. It's almost like your business plan. But things change dramatically, and I think that we live in this day and age where things are changing faster and faster, and the pace is just so hard to keep up with, that a business plan that you write 3 years ago even could seem outdated today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's knowing big picture goals in your mind and being somewhat flexible between, okay, that could happen year 2, or it could happen year 1.5, or it could happen year 2.5.
I'm going back to like when you were a kid. Was there some personal connection to someone that inspired you, or that you looked at your mom and said, wow, I love the way you dress, or I don't like the way you dress?
No, it's definitely.
What
I think it's something that
connection?
I never really attributed anything to my mum in the past, but she recently sent me a photograph of a card that I'd written her, where I told her how pretty she was and how her eyes were so blue and how I loved all her dresses. So I was like, oh, well, maybe actually you did inspire me a little bit, So I think it was a mixture. I think that it was innate. I think that for me, it's a sense of self-expression. Mm-hmm. My father's side of the family, being Middle Eastern, loves jewelry. So it's like all this, colorful, and I'm just.
But you don't have. But you don't.
And as a result, I think it's a reaction to it. I don't wear jewelry really.
That is so interesting.
Yes, I'm not at all like that, but.
Because your clothes are yours. When I first
exactly,
met you,
my clothes are very much what stands out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think that you really have to live and breathe, especially as a female designer. I think the most beautiful aspect of being a female designer is that you can really, you can be so thoughtful. A big aspect of what I talk about with the collection is going from day to play, mm-hmm. which is essentially the idea of having business meetings, breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, all the way up until 6 p.m. and then you've got a cocktail at 7 and you've got a dinner at 8:30, which is very much the life that I lead. I'm sure the life that mm-hmm. you lead too. And we're jam-packed. And I say that this woman is very much a social professional.
So the ability to transport
yourself
seamlessly
is really helpful.
Did you just, at some point when you knew that this was what you wanted to do, what was kind of the first thing you did in making that first step?
Well, it was almost a little bit, it was actually very fortuitous, because I didn't have to, I started with a tiny, tiny collection of 8 pieces.
Was this something you were making in your bedroom?
Yeah, pretty much. So I still had another job. And I was working full days and everything, and
I don't remember.
I was working in fashion. I was working in a very small family-owned firm in the garment district, and I was working as the assistant to the head designer. So I still had this other job, and there were amazing stories like, had created these 8 samples, and they were beautiful, and I loved them, and I wore them all over the place. And was sitting at brunch next to somebody at Prune on the Lower East Side, and was having brunch with some girlfriends, and I was wearing a jacket, and one of the girls leans over and happens to be a buyer at Intermix, and goes, I love your jacket, where's that from? And I said, oh, I actually made it, had no label, had nothing, and she's like, why don't you come in and see me next week? And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, sure, okay, great. So went in, and of the 8 samples, they bought 6, and they buy quite deep. So suddenly I had not incorporated the company, and all I had were these 8 pieces that I had made. And
so you had not,
nothing.
Created this, but you had no idea how you were going to manufacture it.
Well, I did, because I'd worked in, I was still working, and I had those contacts. So on Monday, before I even got the order, this was on like a Saturday, and I was meeting with her on a Wednesday, I went to the production facility, and I said, just on the off chance that I might have an order for you, how would this work? And gave me the whole breakdown about payment terms and all that kind of stuff. And so and it was just a journey of like navigating it. I had to ask for a 50% deposit because I didn't have the cash, or all that kind of stuff. So I was.
But can I just go back to that Monday? So when you left, did you feel like this is going to be this is it? Like, did you have that feeling?
Yes, I did in a way. I did. I think that was one of the only times that I actually got excited about something and didn't try to calm myself down, because now I always try to kind of slightly dampen myself, because you have so much expectation, and I feel as though to the outside world, people are like, oh my goodness, things happen so quickly, but there is so much toiling involved, and it's all day, every day, and working with people to really try to maximize everything that you possibly can, and inspire people, and always have a smile when at times there's nobody who's like doing that for you, so it's quite draining at times. So yes, I was excited, and I think first was I called my dad, and he of course he goes, well, how much is the order for? And I was like well, I don't know yet, but I was very excited when the order came through, because it was a very nice order, and that was it. It was.
Did you quit your job like that week?
I didn't quit it that week. I stayed on for another 2 months, and all sorts of things. I mean, like, we had another amazing moment was that Women's Wear Daily, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I was desperately trying to get across town from the Garment District to the Women's Wear Daily offices, and could not make it. Stuck in the parade, the whole thing, kept the journalists waiting for an hour and 30 minutes because I just couldn't get there. And I had like bags of samples, and she was just so kind, and she ended up giving me a 2-page feature in W and a page feature in Women's Wear Daily, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, does this happen? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that I should pinch myself right now.
Do you have someone that inspires you, or do you have a mentor that you turn to because you're right.
I have so many.
You do?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. There are so many people who, and we did a lovely dinner last week at home, and it was this idea of like paying it forward, and it was all women from different industries. And it was important to me because I have found that I've had so many people who, when I moved here 6-7 years ago now, I didn't know a soul in the fashion industry. I didn't know a person. And that to me now is kind of insane. That some people are so deeply kind in giving you an hour, 90 minutes of their time, and saying, of course I'll sit and talk to you about this, and what's been hard for me. And people are very honest. They are very honest.
But it says a lot about you too. You believed in yourself. You had, and I don't mean this in a negative way, like blind ambition.
Yes,
right?
blind ambition.
But what was it about New York that you felt you had to be here to create your business? Because you could have done it in London.
Well, honestly, I don't think that you can.
Why?
I think that there isn't such a community in London. There is an incredible community here, with the CFDA. We're at the CFDA incubator right now, the Vogue Fashion Fund. People really are looking out for the next generation of talent and supporting that. And that support network is unlike anything else I've ever seen. And yes, people want to be part of a success story, but to your point, they're also there when things go not exactly according to plan, to help you kind of rethink and reshape the way that you should do it. So people will give it a shot, and people will give you a shot. And I think that people aren't ageist. I mean, I started my business when I was 25. So most people in London were like, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? You should go and train at Stella, or do this or do that for 3, 5, 10 years before you launch your own business. I was like, oh my goodness, I'll be like 30 by then, exactly. I'll be 30 by then. So it was that moment that I just thought to myself,
I'm just gonna do it.
Just do it.
Just
do it. Just try it. Just see what happens. And I kind of always felt that if you want it, someone else will want it.
If you put yourself in the role of being the mentor to a mentee, what would you tell them?
I would say don't be afraid to start young, because I actually think that your naivete and your innocence is what brings about some of the best ideas and the best intentions. If I had known all the things that it takes to create a fashion label, I probably wouldn't ever have done it, because it is quite scary. So now that I've done it, and we're in the process and growing and whatever, then I'm like, okay, thank goodness I did that when I was like whatever, and I had no
But
idea.
I didn't know any better.
Exactly.
Because
When
if
I
I
didn't
knew
know any
what I didn't
better.
know-
Sometimes I think knowing too much can actually prohibit you from taking a risk. And
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur ultimately is a risk.
Right.
You're taking a gamble on yourself, and you hope that that risk pays off. And sometimes it does, not exactly the way that you think it will. And you have to be prepared and equipped for that. And you have to be flexible enough to change the course as you see fit.
Great advice. I'm looking around at gorgeous clothing,
Thank
and I
you.
would love to just take a peek at a few pieces.
Of course,
Can we?
absolutely,
Okay.
definitely.
Get more Cranes in print and online with Cranes New York Business, our flagship title, and Cranes 5 Boroughs, a new lifestyle magazine and website covering the 5 boroughs of New York City.